Okay, now it's time to go back to our randoms. We got 14 random shows left and 2 end caps, so 2 videos left. Let's see what the random number generator has to say next. It is 7. Sasaki and Peeps. I think this one had like a double length premiere that people seemed to like, and then it immediately fell off the face of the earth. I have absolutely no clue what it's about, so let's find out. Okay, I see the intent. I understand the intent. I appreciate the intent. But the execution's just not very good. I got through an episode and a half of Sasaki and Peeps, which is more like 2.5 episodes because the first episode was double length for some fucking reason. I don't know why. And basically this show is just like... I understand why people were saying that first episode was like 4 different first episodes of an anime in one, because it pretty much was. Like, it starts off with this like typical office worker guy just working a normal job. He seems to be like a little older, maybe like his 30s or 40s, probably 40s. And suddenly he like gets a desire to have a pet, and so he buys this sparrow. And he finds out very quickly that this sparrow can talk, like fully speak. And then suddenly he finds out that this sparrow is the reincarnation of somebody from another world. And so he goes to that world and brings a bunch of his world stuff with him to sell there. So you got Isekai. I'm not gonna... Do I break out the Isekai bell for this one? Because I mean, I guess technically it is. Just technically. But like, that is so... That's not even like the majority of the plot for this show, because he does that and he starts throwing like magic. And then when he's in his world and he uses magic on someone who's like trying to kill somebody, and the person that person was trying to kill turns out to be a psychic, and so she thinks that he's a psychic now, and so he gets put on like a psychic task force, and so now that's a big part of the plot. Meanwhile, there's this high school girl in the apartment next to him that's just like kind of sitting outside her apartment all the time. And she very clearly has a crush on him. She gives him cookies at one point. And I think in the second episode, somewhere she like starts to go a little yandere. So there's going to be that plot line in it. Or maybe that was in the first episode. I don't remember. But like, so I understand. And presumably there's going to be more, because like I saw the key visual and it looked like there was a magical girl on it. So presumably that's going to show up at some point. So I understand what the show is doing. It's combining all of the genres that are anime, that are very stereotypically anime. It looks like it's trying to combine all of those genres into one story. But it's just not doing it in an interesting way. I'll admit, I do think our main character is kind of an interesting guy just for like the uniqueness of him. We don't get a lot of like adult characters, like people in like the 30 to 40 year old range. We don't get a lot of that. And he seems like a fully realized kind of person. Like he likes animal videos. He's not like super rich, and so he's just kind of grinding away at his job, although I'm confused as to why he's like still at that job if it's not paying very well. But, like, he seems like a believable character. But then, like, him as a character gets drowned out by all these other things. So, he kind of just becomes another, like, reluctant protagonist, kind of, at that point. He definitely seems more interested in the Isekai stuff than the, what do you call it? Than the psychic stuff, because he can make more money with the Isekai stuff. But we don't see him, like, doing anything with the money that he's earned from the Isekai stuff. Like, it says that he can make, like, millions of yen off of single deals, but we don't see, like, an improvement in his lifestyle from that money. So, what's the point? It just seems like a thing that he's doing. And all of the versions of this, of these combinations of anime genres aren't the most interesting versions of those genres. The Isekai world is pretty generic, and he doesn't really do anything interesting there outside of bring them stuff from the real world. We don't see how that stuff impacts the Isekai world in any way so far in the series. The psychic stuff is not all that interesting. It just feels like a standard, like, psychic detective drama kind of action show. So, I think the idea of doing this genre mashup is cool, but I guess I would just rather watch Recreators. That's not an exact parallel, but that is an example of a show that did the genre combination better, because it had better characters, and those specific characters had better worlds that they came from, and the way that they interact was way more interesting. Like, everything feels separate in this, and, like, I assume they're going to converge at some point, but they're so generic that I don't think they're going to combine in interesting ways. And based on the fact that I've heard the show takes the dump in the end, I just don't think I really want to watch any more of it. Also, it looks kind of ass. It's not great looking. It's not, like, total dog shit, but it's not great. So I'm just gonna move on. Alright, taking Sasaki and Peeps off the list. Let's roll that random number generator again and see what we get. 6. Ishura. I have no idea what the show is about. I think it's a Hulu license. I guess we're gonna find out what it's about. You know, it's been a hot minute since I've seen something that's just straight up ass to look at. This show is fucking dog shit looking. It has this particular type of shading that I absolutely hate. The, like, editing is not particularly great. Like, there's this sort of semi-montage kind of sequence early. I only got 5 minutes into this anime. It sucks balls. There's this semi-montage sequence that's hard to follow because of the way it's edited. It's very jarring the way scenes are cut together. In the opening thing, it's like a earthquake happens, and it's supposed, like, this central palace thing kind of collapses, but they don't show it collapsing. Like, that's how not capable this production is. They can't even show it. It's just suddenly, like, it's like there's a palace thing, and then you see other buildings shaking, and, like, you can just see, like, if this were, like, cell animation, I would say that the cell was just, like, moving back and forth of different buildings, and then it cuts back and the palace is just completely collapsed. I think it's a palace. I don't know. Also, we're going for, like, a murder porn kind of opening to this. They led with potential Yuri, and I was like, wow, this this one character is going to die horribly, isn't she? And yeah, she sure did. Not my thing. It's garbo. It's everything about this is ass. Let's move on. Okay, Ishura is off the list. Let's roll again and see what we get now. It's gonna be 6 again. So The Witch and the Beast. I only remember people talking about this during the premiere, and I don't think they liked it very much. No clue what it's about, so let's find out. I need to come up with new transitions because this is getting kind of stale. Let's watch it. Man, what is it with shows that just decide to be immediately abrasive, like right out of the gate? I got through like 8 minutes of The Witch and the Beast, and this show is so fucking annoying. Like, the main blonde girl is a total fucking moron and just immediately abrasive to everyone around her. It's so fucking dumb and stupid. Like, okay, you stroll into a town, you're looking for a witch because you assume that witches are bad guys, and you see a giant monster stomping around, and then that giant monster gets defeated by a witch, and so he turns back into a normal guy, and then the normal guy, while he's getting arrested by police, says, "You witches are all evil, I'm going to kill you myself one day." And then the crowd starts cheering as he gets arrested. So then the dumb blonde bitch attacks the witch out of nowhere and says all witches are evil, so on and so forth. You get the picture. How do you not fucking read the room? It's so fucking stupid. It's also pretty mid to look at. It's not just like barefacedly incompetent like Ishura was, but man, it's not interesting to look at all. I do like the blonde dummy's design. I think she's kind of hot, but that doesn't make up for her being a huge fucking moron. Man, that made me angry. This show sucks. Okay, The Witch and the Beast coming off the list. Let's see what we roll next. It's gonna be 7. Isekai Onsen Paradise. Okay, I think this is actually an ecchi show, and it's a short series. Let's see. I've heard absolutely no one talk about it. So let's see if it's worth anything at all. Wow, that looked like absolute dog shit. That is terrible looking. The designs are shit. The animation is barely there. Sucks ass. So this is a TV short that has an uncensored version, apparently. And, man, the boobs are disappointing. Like, if you're gonna draw boobs, and you're gonna go through the effort of having, like, a censored and an uncensored version, come on, man, draw some nice titties. But that is well beyond the reach of anyone working on this show. It looks terrible. The ecchi is not appealing in any way whatsoever. Also, it's not, like, fun or interesting. The concept is interesting, kind of like introducing onsens to an isekai world, but it's not interesting. The main character is kind of annoying. What else do I say about that? I very rarely say this, but this just seems like a waste of space. I don't know who this is for, because there's nothing interesting about it outside of the concept and the boobs aren't that good. So who the fuck is this for? I don't get it. let's move on.
Alright, Isekai Onsen coming off the list. Let's roll our random number generator again. We're down to 10 randoms. What's next? 7. Ah, 'tis time for torture, princess. This one looked like it was a fun show. Kind of in the realm of like Sleeping Princess in the Demon's Castle or whatever. But I have not heard anyone talk about this at all. So hopefully it's a hidden gem? Maybe?
That might be the most wholesome anime I have seen ever. If not, at least in a really long time. I just finished all of "'Tis Time for Torture, Princess." I apologize if I sound a little tired. This is the earliest that I've ever recorded one of these because work's been really rough this week, so I kept passing out in the middle of each episode last night. So now I'm up before 6:30 recording this. So yeah, Torture Princess. I couldn't find a good way of abbreviating this show when I was talking about it on Twitter, so whatever. This was very fun. It's pretty much exactly what you... The first episode is pretty much exactly what you think it is. It's like, oh, she's gonna get tortured, but it's like really like weird, not like PG tortures, like I'm gonna eat this piece of really tasty toast in front of you. And I was like, okay, obvious premise, but the execution was really solid. The animation was surprisingly good. I almost thought this was a Doga Kobo show at first, but it turns out it was Pine Jam. I'm gonna bet someone on the staff worked at Doga Kobo at some point. Not the director, apparently. But I'm gonna imagine somebody at the studio, at least a couple of the main staff did, because it's definitely given me those Doga Kobo cute comedy zany antics vibes. There's definitely a notable level of cartooniness in this that was very fun. The animation was very bouncy and fluid, and like lot of smears, a lot of really good smears in this one that made this very visually pleasing to look at. And also the character designs were just really solid all around. Just very fun, and like nothing about them that was like ever off-putting. Just very cool and fun designs. It's just a fun little show. It was very fun and warm and inviting. And I was worried after the first episode. I was like, okay, first episode was good. I feel like this is gonna get repetitive though if just this is the premise. And eventually, like, very quickly actually, probably around like episode 3, the premise more so becomes the torture is kind of just like a facade, really, for all of the Demon Lord's torturers to just hang out with the princess and just hang out and do fun things together. Like, it's like they just genuinely all become friends, and like they say that outright, that it's like, yeah, I'm torturing you, but you're also my friend. And so it basically just becomes like a comedy slice of life series, where all of these demon torturers are hanging out with the princess, and becoming friends with her. Like, this little vampire torturer is basically just like what do you call it, I've never really had any friends, and so she uses her position as a torturer to get closer to the princess. It was very fun. I was also very surprised by the setting for this. Like, barely a fantasy world at all. Like, it only uses the fantasy elements for, like, the plot. The plot where it's like, oh, there's a kingdom, and then there's a demon realm, the Hell Horde. But, like, everything else just looks like normal Japan. Like, the Demon Lord lives in, like, an apartment complex, it looks like. And there's video games and camcorders and, like, amusement parks, just modern-ass amusement parks. It's so... The anachronism was very funny for this. Sorry, still very tired. Just woke up. Yeah, it's... There was a lot of unexpected elements to this show that made it more than just repetitive torture, but not really torture gags. Like, I love that they made the Demon Lord like a dad guy and a wife guy. Like, he's just this he just super into his daughter's, like, school life and, like, watching her grow up and stuff. It was very cute and wholesome. And I was kind of surprised by how they, like, the reversing of, how am I trying to say this? It actually is kind of like it is very similar to Sleeping Princess in the Demon Castle in certain ways, like, but almost even more overt in, like, its characterization, because that princess didn't really have a ton of characterization. This one had way more of, like, oh, she's this stoic, noble princess who has never been, like, who's been, like, deprived of, like, luxury and was never really spoiled as a princess, except for this one guy who was, like, her teacher for a while, who was basically just occasionally spoiled her with, like, treats and stuff. But, like, she was, like, raised with the mentality of being, like, this noble princess that has to be this upholder of, like, noble values and such. And the fact that she's not that now, when she is a captive of these demons, and she kind of just gets to be a girl that just gets to hang out with friends, and so she can engage in, like, more luxurious stuff like saunas and hot springs and, like, more decadent desserts and such. It was a very fun reversal of this character that made this more than just a series of funny gags and stuff. Yeah, this is just I'm mostly just surprised that this was more than more than just being repetitive gags and such. I was now there's nothing, like, stupendously hilarious about it. This is very much like a mild chuckle kind of series. So I will say that made it a little bit less engaging, I guess. But also, just the camaraderie that these characters share and just the fun that they engage in made this more than worth the watch. And it got me through... apparently got me through the whole series despite me constantly falling asleep from how fucking tired I am at work. Oh, fuck. So, yeah. And I would definitely like a second season of this, mostly because I just love the character designs for this, and it was just so very fun, and, like, there was so much moe in this show. Occasionally too much. Occasionally it really leaned into, like, oh, this is so cute and such, like with some of the cute animal stuff. But overall, this was just I felt moe while watching this show. That burning cuteness I felt watching all these characters being friends and interacting with each other was so very fun and wholesome. I had a good time.
Alright, 'tis time for torture. Princess is complete. We're gonna scroll up and put you in the number 7 spot for now with a decent 7. Fun little moe comedy slice of life fun time. Okay, so let's see. Let's try and do 2 more randoms before we get to our next end cap. So that's not the right website. Let's see what we get next on our randoms. It's going to be 2. Chained Soldier. Okay, this is I know a lot of people were hyped for this one before it started, and then not a lot of people were talking about it, so I have no clue what to expect. Let's dive in. Okay, so I'm actually recording this in the parking lot of a Marcus Theater right now because I'm getting ready to go see the Haikyuu movie, but I had enough time to watch the first episode of Chained Soldier, and very unremarkable for the most part. I was like, for the first 15 minutes or so of this series, I was like, okay, pretty standard, generic, cute girls fight monsters movie or series with a with a male lead for some reason. There's a little bit of bondage elements to it, but for the most part, I'm like, what is the appeal here? It just feels super generic. The action scenes were not great. Like, the ones that were legible were terrible CG. Well, not terrible CG, they were pretty mediocre CG. And the ones that weren't CG were illegible and not easy to follow anything. The characterization is the bare minimum. I do like that the guy is shown to be good at home ec and stuff and sewing. Although the introductory scene of him showing, it showed him obviously sewing a guy's button back on, but I couldn't tell that the button was missing at first. Maybe I just missed it or something because I'm on my phone, but it was not an impressive scene to watch. So it did not make him out to be an impressive sewer or home care kind of dude. So it's pretty much just there to foreshadow the fact that he's going to be the caretaker of this dorm of sexy demon fighters. And so I'm watching this and I'm going, what is so remarkable about this that the manga was so popular? Because I'm pretty sure this is a fairly popular manga. And then it got to the makeout scene. I'm like, oh, I get it. Because she has to give him a proper reward for being her slave and turning into a monster for her. And so we get this very long makeout scene, which, to its credit, it's not unsexy. Could have been better, but it wasn't unsexy. Music did a lot of heavy lifting. And so I was like, oh, I know what kind of show this is now. And then they got back to the headquarters and they're like, oh, you're going to be the caretaker of this all-girls dormitory. I'm like, oh, I definitely know what kind of show this is going to be now. Yay! To be honest, I had completely forgotten that they still make these kind of shows. This is a relic of a bygone era of the what's the fucking
the why can't I remember the name of the really famous one, the really famous harem one, with the guy's name is like Kenichi or something. Oh My Goddess, that's what I'm thinking of. I think that's what I'm thinking of. It had that vibe to it. So I will say, maybe it's just because I miss that era of anime that I'm at least the base monkey part of my brain wants me to watch more, because I want to see him get into shenanigans with these cute girls. And they are cute. They're not the cutest of this particular genre that I've seen, but credit where it's due, they're cute. But there was nothing about this first episode in terms of like the story that made me want to watch more. And they censored some part of the action scene for like gore. So I'm like, if they're going to censor the action scenes, they're definitely going to censor some of the naughty stuff. So, and I haven't heard about there being like a censored or uncensored version of this. So this is probably, I'm going to go ahead and guess that the sexy stuff is going to be pretty tame in this. So what's the point in watching more? Whatever. I'm going to go watch the Haikyuu movie now. Bye!
Alright, Chained Soldier coming off the list. We'll do one more random before we get to our end cap. We have 8 left. Our last random is going to be 3. Fluffy Paradise. Have not heard anyone talk about this show. I'm going to imagine it involves animals, perhaps fantasy animals. Let's see if I'm right.
Well, I made it farther into that than I expected, though still ended up dropping it. I made it about 2.5 episodes into Fluffy Paradise. The Isekai elements are basically non-existent after the Isekaiing, other than the fact that we have a 27-year-old person in the body of a 3-year-old, basically. So, and no one seems to think this 3-year-old is like overly intelligent or anything, which is kind of weird. Although she still has like 3-year-old speech patterns, like the L's come out as W's, at least that's how it's portrayed in the subtitles. I don't know what the Japanese equivalent of that is, but this one was I got this far into this one mostly by virtue of the premise, where it's like isekai, but the main character can befriend any animal, which was, at least by isekai standards, is fairly unique. But they don't really do anything with it. It's mostly just she befriends an animal, and then she pets that animal, and then she befriends another animal, and then she pets that animal, and then she rides that animal. And it just keeps going like that. So there's really nothing here outside of the animals, which would be fine if the show looked good, but it doesn't. It's pretty terrible looking, not gonna lie. Really, really weak character designs, and moreover, the animal designs are not great. They are not fun to look at. They are not well drawn. Like, there's a tiger that's one of the main animals in this, and he's really not drawn well at all. Not animated well. So, the main thrust of this show looks like shit, unfortunately. Which is a shame, because I would like a show where the main character just vibes with animals. That could work if it looked good. But this looks like shit. So unfortunately, it does not work.
Alright. Fluffy Paradise coming off the list, which means it's time for another end cap. It's finally time for Hirogaru Sky Precure. It's been... I've been really looking forward to this one. Really enjoyed Delicious Party last season, and this one has gotten a ton of hype during the entire time it was airing. Let's jump into some Precure.
Alright, another Precure in the books. I just finished up Soaring Sky Precure. Took me about 2 weeks to watch all of it, because it's a full 50-ass episode show. And fun times. Overall fun times, but I'm not gonna lie, it was just very slightly a bit of a letdown. I don't quite know how to put it other than... So, like, I've been watching Precure since Hugto. So far I have seen Hugto, Star Twinkle, Tropical Rouge, Delicious Party, Splash Star, and now Soaring Sky. And I've tried to watch... I've gotten about a third of the way through Futariwa. I need to go back and finish that at some point. And I've also tried to watch Healin' Good and, yes, Precure 5, but I didn't... But those two I just dropped because I just did not like. So I feel like I am slowly becoming more and more of a Precure expert at this point. But of the ones that I've finished, I want to phrase this right because no matter how I phrase this, it's going to come out wrong. Soaring Sky, Hirogaru has, I'm just going to call it Hirogaru because it's funner to say, has the least things about it that are really good. Like, it's still, like, across the board, very competent, very fun. I will say right off the bat, it has the most consistently good fight animation. Like, this probably has the most, like, small bits of Sakuga here and there. Like, every fight scene, just about every fight scene looks really good. Sometimes it's shot from a really interesting angle. Sometimes the choreography is really fun. Sometimes the particle effects are really good. So, I will say, on that front, it is, like, the most consistently good. But also, there aren't a lot of really stand out fight scenes. Like, the episode 50, the opening fight scene for that, I would say, was probably the most standout. And again, I watched this over 2 weeks, so I might be forgetting some of it, but there's nothing really sticking in my brain. And there's a lot of that across the board. That feeling is kind of prevalent across the board. The characters are really good, but not a lot sticks out. The story is pretty solid, but not a lot sticks out. The themes are there, and they work well with the story that's been constructed, but there's not a lot that sticks out. It's just purely competent. No, it's not. It's more than competent. Competent feels like an insult at this point. It is above average across the board, but for me, there's nothing about it that really makes this particular entry feel like really stick with me. Like with Hugto, we had some really great character development. With Star Twinkle and with Delicious Party, the themes of it all were really good. Splash Star also had really good character chemistry, and I will give Soaring Sky that. The cast, like the camaraderie of the cast was really fun. It was really good to see it was really fun to see these characters interact with each other. Sora and Mashiro in particular, the way that they support each other and feed off of each other to grow as people, that was really fun. I will give it that. That's probably one of the things I'll remember the most about the series. What else was I going to say? Like, Tropical Rouge has better comedy across the board, and it's just, like, generally more fun to watch, I guess. So, and again, I'm not saying, like, anything, there's not a lot about Soaring Sky that's bad or even mediocre. It's just, it's very, like, consistently good, but very rarely great, I guess I could say. And I do like all the things that I mentioned. We got some really good character development across the board with how all of these people want to grow and pursue their dreams, which is one of the big which is probably like the big theme of Hiragaru, is sort of inspiration. What inspires us to grow into the people that we want to be in the future. How we take that inspiration and spread it out into the world, which is very much part of the hero theme of this, which is another thing I like. I like heroes. I'm an American. I grew up on like comic book stories. Heroes are fun. But I gotta say, between this and like My Hero, and even like Shy, I think Japan's doing the hero thing a little better. I think I gotta give it to them. They're starting to do the hero thing a little bit better, at least in terms of like the thematic power of the hero. I am enjoying Japan's version of it a lot more as of late. Now, I am not like a comic book reader. I have consumed animated series, and I've seen Marvel and DC movies, so I'm sure there are some really good comic interpretations of that concept that I just haven't seen. Oh well. And so I really like the idea of like how inspiration and heroism are permeated throughout this series. Yeah, it's just good across the board. I will say I do think this has one of the weaker villain casts of all the Precures that I've seen so far. Like, Batamonda is probably my favorite of the ones, and he got like a few episodes of really good stuff with how he relates to Mashiro, and like how their dreams are, one's dreams are rising and the other dream is falling, and we see the emotional flare-ups that happen in that as those two things occur. But like, Kabadon was fine. Minoton is a total throwaway villain. He's like the gold guy from Splash Star, Keen something, I forget what the full name of it. He's like that, but worse and like less interesting. This like big buff, I'm only all about fighting kind of dude, but he's just not as interesting. The big like plot twist reveal, I'm also not, I don't hate it, but it was a little underwhelming of like, oh, I just manipulated your memories. Cool, awesome. Which, like, it's kind of like how Delicious Party starts with Gentle / Cure Finale, where it's like she starts off with her mind and memories being manipulated, but then she becomes good. With Hiragaru, it's a plot twist at the very end that doesn't really have any setup. So it has less impact, it's not like bad, but it's underwhelming again. Sort of the theme of what I'm talking about here. I will say though, this is probably and again, even on like the visual end, artistically, it is very competent across the board. It probably has some of the best consistently good color design. Like this is a very pleasant series to look at. There's very rarely anything garish about it, but there are very few moments where it really shoots for it. Like Sora's goodbye to Mashiro at the very end was really good. Some of the stuff, and what was it, like episode 23 or something, where what's her face, Sora's mentor is defeated and goes missing. Some of the stuff there was really good. But there's not a lot that really is sticking with me. Like some of the really dark imagery of Star Twinkle sticks with me. The splashy fun of Tropical Rouge really sticks with me. There's not a lot like here that's, except for Pure Sky's design, who is easily one of my favorite Precure designs, period. The cape, awesome. Love it. So fucking good. Easily one of my favorite Precure designs. But, yeah, aside from that, there's really not a whole lot that's, like, incredible about it. So, I guess that's the long and short of it. Now, what is incredible that I don't think is going to factor into my consideration here, but who knows in terms of the rankings, was Precure All-Stars F. Holy shit, that's a fucking movie. That All-Stars F is the ultimate piece of like pure fan service. It's like a tight 75 minutes, might even be shorter than that, 72 minutes actually, I think, of just like throw all the Precures in there. Now, not all of them get a ton of focus. In fact, that was me being the big big Star Twinkle fan. We only got basically Cure Milky and a little bit of Cure Star. But like, man, that, as someone who's been watching like Precure stuff for like, I guess over 5 years now, it's really fucking good. And I think the main characters in that movie stretch back to Go Princess Precure, I think, is the oldest one that gets like a lot of focus. But we still get like the classics like Cure Black and White. We got the Memories of Precure moment was really fucking good and emotional, and it was really strong fan service. The villain in that was basically the perfect villain to antagonize the concept of Precure in a way. I don't want to like give too much away about the movie because it's so tight and easy to watch, but like that was really good. There's like, I subconsciously, like, if you've seen Hugto Precure, Curiel has this catchphrase that she does, and it is said twice throughout the movie, and both times my brain like picked up on it immediately, and I started mouthing along with it in Japanese. So that shit is fucking embedded in my brain, and it made me so hopeful and inspired. And it was just great fan service. Also, really fucking good looking movie. Like, just the action scenes are some of the best action scenes I've seen from Precure ever. It's just non-stop explosive action fun. So, yeah. Precure All-Stars F, really damn good. Soaring Sky, it's good. I would still recommend it. Oh, and I gotta talk about the fact that sort of takes a few riffs on who can be a Precure. I almost completely forgot to talk about that. Like, we have our first boy Precure for this. Well, I don't know how you want to classify that one character from Hugto. I don't know if they are how they identify, actually. It's been over 5 years since I've seen Hugto. So, there's that. But this is just the first, like, main cure that is a boy. And it sort of takes on this idea of, like, oh, yeah, it's not just girls that can be Precure. If you're a boy, you like Precure, you like cute stuff, that's totally fine. You can be a Precure. We have our first Precure that's an adult. She's 18, which is barely an adult, but still an adult. She's a functioning adult with a job, and she still gets to be a Precure. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what gender you are, you can be a Precure if you like Precure. Me being a 30-year-old man talking about Precure to the internet, I'm all about that. So yeah, that is definitely the big positive that this one has. I will give it that. But yeah, overall, fun to watch, but just, I wish it had a little bit more oomph to it in certain areas. I guess that's really all I can say.
Alright, Soaring Sky Precure is complete. And we're gonna put it in the number 9 spot for now, with a decent 7. Still very fun. Enjoyed pretty much all the time I spent here, but just a little bit underwhelming overall, I guess.